صل على محمد وآل محمد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم بسم الله وصلى الله على محمد وآله وفوض أمري إلى الله إن الله بصير بالعباد فوقاه الله سيئات ما مكروا لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك إني كنت من الظالمين فاستجبنا له ونجيناه من الغم وكذلك ننجي المؤمنين حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل فانقلبوا بنعمة من الله وفضل لم يمسسهم سوء ما شاء الله لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله ما شاء الله لا ما شاء الناس ما شاء الله وإن كره الناس حسبي الرب من المربوبين حسبي الخالق من المخلوقين حسبي الرازق من المرزوقين حسبي الله رب العالمين حسبي من هو حسبي حسبي من لم يزل حسبي حسبي من كان مسكنت لم يزل حسبي حسبي الله لا إله إلا هو عليه توكلت وهو رب العرش العظيم اللهم صل على
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين بالقاسم محمد اللهم صل على محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا أما بعد فقد قال أمير المؤمنين علي بن أبي طالب عليه الصلاة والسلام في كلامه ما أنتم لي بثقة سجيس الليالي وما أنتم بركن جمال بكم ولا زوافر عز يفتقر إليكم ما أنتم إلا كإبل ضل رعاتها فكلما جمعت من جانب انتشرت من آخر لبئس لأمر الله صلوات الله محمد وآل محمد. Continuing with the khutbah number 34, this is the second part of this khutbah labeled as You're Not Trustworthy. Imam is speaking to Ibn Abil Hadid. We mentioned this in the first part of the khutbah, but since it's been almost 2-3 weeks, just a quick refresh as to where and what was the context. This khutbah was delivered after the Battle of Nahrawan. The Battle of Nahrawan takes place in the 38th year after Hijrah. That was the third battle of Amir al-Mu'mineen, following Jamal, Siffin, then Nahrawan. Those Khawarij who had separated in the Battle of Siffin, they waged war after the Hakamiyat. They declared war against Khalifatul Muslimin, Khalifa Rashid, that was Amir al-Mu'mineen at that time. And of course, they were against Muawiyah as well, but nonetheless, they fought in a place called Nahrawan, which is in the outskirts of Baghdad. So that's where the battle actually took place. A lot of casualties on the Khawarij side, and Imam Ibn Abil Hadid mentioned, I had mentioned these quotes last time, that either this khutbah was given and delivered in that very place where Nahrawan, the Battle of Nahrawan, the Marakatul Nahrawan took place, or this was given upon the arrival of Imam back to Kufa. So when Imam came back to Kufa, either Imam said these words at that time. He begins with this second part when he says, وَأَيْمُ اللَّهِ إِنِّي لَعَظُنُّ. He begins, مَا أَنْتُمْ لِي بِثِقَةٍ, rather. You have lost my confidence. That's why the label was, you're not trustworthy. You've lost my confidence for good. Neither are you a support for me to lean upon, nor a means of honor to honor and victory. Instead of just translating this, we'll get right into the shorter portions of it. Imam begins by using this analogy that he gives. Let me just get to that. So there's some few words that he's using. Sajis is something which is a very uncommon word, which means murky or dark or gloomy. Yumalu bikum, support is taken from you, meaning that in attacking the enemy, reliance is placed upon you. Using these two words, Imam ﷺ begins by saying, drawing a conclusion from his previous words. He said, you are never worthy of my trust. Ma antum li bi thiqatin sajis al-layali. Considering that sajis al-layali means the darkness of the night, the glooming aspect of it that I mentioned, the sentence becomes that as long as the nights are dark, I do not trust you. Only when the sun rises, sun shines, then when we can see each other, and then only. But right now, at the darkness of the night, no way. I do not trust you. And this is a metaphor for eternity and permanence, since darkness never separates from the night. Does the night ever yeah, when the moon is full, maybe you can see a little bit, but the night, there's no separation between the darkness and the night. Just like it's in its innate nature. It's like the salt. And can you take away the saltiness of the salt? Right? No, you can't. You can't separate the two things. Similarly, Imam is giving this. So when he says that means I've lost confidence in you, which will never be repaired. It's not possible for I to gain that trust back from you. The choice of the darkness night for this expression in view of the black and gloomy thoughts and actions of the Kufans. So look at the comparison that Imam is giving. It's the way these people were thinking. In their mind, in their thoughts, they were very dark. We use that expression in our discussions as well all the time in figure of speech. This person has very deep thoughts, for example, right? Deep, when you say that means he's thinking. She's thinking, right? They're not shallow, they're deep, meaning there's something behind the words. And sometimes when people speak, they're very shallow in their speech. You can make it out just by the apparent meaning of what they're saying. You don't really need to dig deep into the implied meaning of what is being said. Here, dark sometimes, someone who's dark, or their dark forces, or they're, using, all of that leads to something which is suspicious. So that's what the thoughts and the actions of Kufans were. It was very suspicious. A kind of conformity to the situation which is considered among the techniques of rhetoric. Of course, that is the balaghat of Nahj al-Balagha that Amir al-Mu'mineen is exploiting over here. So further emphasizes by saying, وَمَا أَنْتُمْ بِرُكْنٍ يُمَالُ بِكُمْ وَلَا زَوَافِرَ إِذٍ يُفْتَقَرُ إِلَيْكُمْ. And you are never a reliable support upon whom one may lean when facing bloodthirsty and the deceitful enemies. Nor are you strong supporters to whom one may turn in times of need. When do you need a friend? A friend in need is a friend indeed. Otherwise, you can try your friends at times of struggle. You'll see how many are standing with you. The prime example is Karbala. The Muslim empire has spread from far east to west, within Arabia, the entire Arabian Peninsula, portions of Persia and other parts. Well, what happens? 72 people stand up to defend the honor of Islam. So thus Imam says, through his short and forceful statements, expresses his distrust towards this weak-natured and irresolute group. Clearly enumerates their points of weakness, counting one by one. This is in you, this is in you, this is in you. And this is not someone who's angry. This is not someone who's, had some sort of personal grudge or vendetta against them. No. It was purely based on what Imam had seen out of these people, what Imam was noticing out of these people. And then when he says these things, it's not just for the people of that time. It reflects on people of today as well. What's happening globally and how so many people cannot be trusted. They're just so untrustworthy. What things that they say, things they come out with, these slogans that they have, and then what they are really made of. So perhaps these words may awaken their, dormant conscience, sleeping conscience. They might awaken with these harsh words. Sometimes you feel a leader becomes so harsh, there is a possibility that he's just trying to, their insensitive spirit which has died down needs to be shaken up and wakened, causing them to rise to crush the bloodthirsty enemies, unite them, and enter into the battlefield courageously. He said, the enemy is awake while you are asleep. That's the opposite. Enemy should be sleeping. You should be awake. So in this part of the sermon, Imam, continuing his forceful yet logical and reasoned reproaches and rebukes, addresses the Kufans with such criticism and adds that ma antum illa ka iblin dhalla ru'atuha. Of course, Imam is going to give an example of camel. That's what they used to ride back then. He said, you are like camels. Now someone is being compared to camel, they feel good. Camel is the most expensive animal at that time. Most reliable animal, for example. Camel is someone they utilize for their daily needs. They utilize many things from the camel. They ride on it. They carry their luggage on it. They use it for other purposes as well. There's so many uses. It's their livelihood depends on the camels. So remember, you're like camels. So maybe they feel good. Oh, Imam is giving us an example. He says you're like camels without a shepherd. That's the difference. Camel without a shepherd is basically a camel which is lost. Whenever they are gathered from one side, they scatter from the other. This indicates that you possess weak resolve and scattered. You need someone to guide you. You need someone to mount on you, just like a camel needs to be mounted and taken in that particular direction. Because of your disordered thoughts, you do not recognize your own interest, nor are you united in judgment regarding them. And you do not rise with discipline and strength to repel them. All the things that are found in a camel which does not have a shepherd. But if there was a guide, proper shepherd to a camel will not go into halakat on his own. Leave this camel alone in the middle of the desert, will not be able to find his way, and will die eventually. The comparison to camels points to the short-sightedness of their thinking. Why? That must be something that Imam is telling us regarding. Quran also talks about camels, right? Look at the camels, the way Allah has created them, the way they walk. Imam is saying something which is could only be understood when you have kept an animal for a long time. When you tame an animal, you keep an animal, you understand the habits of that animal. Imam says camels have a very short-sightedness in their thing. They only think of maybe their very next move, but not 2 moves ahead, not 3 or 4 moves ahead. And so the expression dhalla ru'atuha points to a lack of obedience to the leader. It's not like you don't have a leader. Unlike a camel who's lost a shepherd, Imam is giving this direction, but here someone can turn around and say, look, Imam, this example is wrong. You are our shepherd. You are our leader. You are guiding us, right? Whereas a camel doesn't have, that's the one. So this example doesn't fit properly. Imam said, no, you have a leader, but you disobey him. You have a leader, but you don't listen to him. Just as a camel without a shepherd. So obviously, such a group can never form a powerful army to stand against the enemy. For this reason, Imam says, لَبِئْسَ لَعَمْرُ اللَّهِ سُعُرُ نَارِ الْحَرْبِ أَنْتُمْ. The fourth line, right? Yeah. He says, by God, you are an evil means for kindling the fire of war against the enemies. War is certainly a very ominous and undesirable phenomenon. Nobody wants it. But at times it is needed. When the fitna of Khawarij is there, you need to crush that fitna. If you don't crush that fitna through this maraka, through this battle, through this war, then it's going to integrate and cause, your saf and your community to suffer. So they have to be uprooted. Their ideology have to be uprooted. Their ideology was worse than a clear enemy standing in front of you with a sword. You can fight with an enemy with a sword, but you cannot fight with an enemy whose aqaid are gone wrong, and they have infiltrated in your community. They have infiltrated in your society. With their wrong aqaid, they can destroy the entire society without having raised a sword. So their danger is hidden, and their danger is far worse than the enemy who's waging war with a sword outside in front of you. That's why here, delicate nukta is the difference between a kafir and a munafiq. Kafir, you know who it is, what he believes, you can fight him. Munafiq, who's inside, within your own lines, it's very difficult to identify, and it's very difficult to fight. So, Imam says, well, this is an undesirable situation, and its effects are the destructions of cities, the killing of a group of people, the maiming of another group, poverty, misery, backwardness. Yet this same ominous phenomena sometimes becomes a life-giving remedy for society. Right? This gives life. What is the ayat of Quran? Fil qisas hayatun ya ulul albab. In retribution, there's hayat for you, right? Or those who possess intellect. Wa fil qisas hayatun. He said, no, don't take revenge. Don't do retribution. Forgive them. No, forgiveness is good. But in sometimes retribution, when you hang those who have caused fitna in front of all, there's hayat for you. Why? Taking that one life is going to go ahead and keep everyone else on their guard. So Quran says, وَفِي الْقَصَاصِ حَيَاتٌ يَا أُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ. So this becomes life-giving remedy for society. And this occurs when this open enemy of yours, who's thirsty for your blood, rise up to usurp the rights of the oppressed and ignite the fire of corruption and injustice. So in these circumstances, peace, justice, harmony, tranquility cannot be restored to human societies except through war. He said, yeah, you have to go through the difficulty of war to get to peace. Sometimes that is important. You want peace, you got to go through the war. You got to go through the war zone in order to be able to bring this peace about. Not just keep on saying that I've ended 8 wars, I should get a peace prize. So for this very reason, Quran says, أُذِنَ لِلَّذِينَ يُقَاتِلُونَ بِأَنَّهُمْ ظُلِمُوا وَإِنَّ اللَّهَ عَلَى نَصْرِهِمْ لَقَدِيرٌ. Permission has been granted to those who are fought against. Those who are fought against, meaning you weren't doing it, someone waged a war against you. Because they have been wronged, and indeed Allah is fully capable of granting them victory. So you don't need a permit now to respond. Another place, قَاتِلُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ الَّذِينَ يُقَاتِلُونَكُمْ وَلَا تَعْتَدُوا إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُحِبُّ الْمُعْتَدِينَ. Fight in the way of Allah, those who fight you, but do not transgress. Do not transgress. So therefore, Imam here refers to the kindling, the fire of war. It is because of these, these marauders of Syria, Sham, again bloodthirsty, those who are fitnagar, have repeatedly violated the borders of the Islamic land, shed blood, plundered property. In principle, they had adopted an attitude of hostility toward the successor of Rasulullah. So for this reason, in continuation of this statement, because of their illegitimate demands and they had chosen the path of war, Imam said what? Tukaduna wala takidun. He says, evil and dangerous schemes are being devised against you, yet you devise no plan in return. Tukaduna. Tukaduna means this is a fail majhul. It is being devised for you. But wala takidun. This is fail ma'lum. But you're not doing anything in return. Secondly, your surroundings are continually being diminished. You know, the surrounding towns are seized and people are destroyed. وَتُنْتَقَسُ أَطْرَافُكُمْ وَلَا تَمْتَضِعُونَ. You know, they're being destroyed and you never become angry or feel pain and distress. Thirdly, the enemy's eyes does not sleep in order to strike you. لَا يُنَامُ عَنْكُمْ وَأَنْتُمْ فِي غَفْلَةٍ سَاهُونَ. While you remain in heedlessness and unawareness. Quran in Surah Hum an salatihim sahun, right? Surah Ma'un talks about it. The word sahi or sahav, you have sajda sahav from that as well. What is sajda sahav? Sajda for forgetfulness. From that comes the word sahun that Imam is referring to these people. That you were heedless, negligent, you were praying, and in the middle of the prayer, you did the tashahud at the wrong place. Why? Because your mind was somewhere else. And this was the third rakat of Zohr. You did tashahud. You realized it. What do? You break the prayer? No. You leave it. You get up. Do your fourth rakat. Finish your fourth rakat. Tashahud and salam. And as soon as you finish, do what? Sajda sahab. Or you were praying and then you forgot that you were praying and you started talking. Can you close the fridge, please? Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, Maliki Yawmiddin, Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Open the door. Ihdina as-siratal mustaqim, siratal ladzina an'amta alayhim ghayril maghdubi alayhim waladdallin. You say, oh man, I was praying. And in the middle of prayer, you said something which is not part of the prayer. Is the namaz broken? No, if it was done unintentionally, you never realize it. No, namaz is not done. What do? Sajda sahab at the end. So when you have said something which is not part of salah. So there are 4 or 5 instances where sajda sahab should be done when you do something out of negligence, not on purpose. You do this on purpose, then there's namaz. All right, so it is self-evident that a group which had no sound military plan in the face of enemies' destructive schemes. They were planning. Muawiyah with Amr As, they had plans. And that's why when people called Muawiyah to be very sharp and smart, Imam said, no, that is tilkan nakira. You know, when the Imam told his people to be intelligent, sharp, he said, then Muawiyah is also very intelligent. He said, no, he's not intelligent, he's tilkan nakira. That's evil. The evil planning and the sound planning, there's a difference between the two. So he says, whose cities and settlements along the borders are continually taken away from them, whose believing people are being killed, which is constantly sunk in the sleep of heedlessness, while the enemy remains awake and vigil. How painful it is for people without awareness of the spiritual and the physical condition of the Kufan army and the hypocrisy, rebellion, weakness, and incapacity prevailing among them, pass judgment on the military strategies of Imam Ali. That, oh Ali, you do not know how to do siyasat. Oh Ali, you do not know how to govern a group of people. This is not how it's done. Many people criticize Imam's policies. Number one, because they didn't consider him to be Imam, a divine Imam. They thought him to be just like the other previous Khulafa. He's none of them. They made mistakes, he's making mistakes as well. Or Imam's true nature of following the commands of Allah and saying that I will only follow what Allah has said and what Allah has commanded and what Prophet has commanded, meaning there won't be any favoritism, there won't be any nepotism, there won't be any injustice under my watch. They say, no, kabhi kabhi chalta hai, chhod de. No, that's not how it works. not under the hukumat of Imam-e-Zamana. He's the Imam-e-Zamana of the time. He's the sole leader of the time. He can't just overlook certain things. He can't just let him by. Even if it goes against you and your family. Right? That's what the ayat of Quran says. That, Allah ta'adilu, i'dilu. Have taqwa, do justice, even if it is going against your own family members, even if it's going against your own relatives. Anyways, so they call Imam's strategies to be, weak, and the history of the life in his particular period, and accuse him of weakness in management in this matter. Someone who always fought in the arenas of Islamic battles. It's not like Imam's resume is deprived of his achievements. It's filled with it. As the finest officer, companion, supporter of the noble Prophet, who had proven time and again his competence and the capability. But yet these people were finding flaws in Imam's way of government. He says what? He says, غُلِبَ وَاللَّهِ الْمُتَخَاذِلُونَ. Imam expresses the outcome of their actions and his own future in two short, eloquent sentences. By Allah, defeat is certain for those who abandon mutual support. This is where a concept of mutual support, which you hear that story growing up, a father who brought his sons together, gave them all a stick, and said, break it. And they were all able to easily break the stick. Then he put all the sticks in a bunch, and he gave it to his sons one by one. He said, now break it. They weren't able to break it. Why? When all the sticks were put together, they became very solid and strong. There's no way of tearing it apart. Of course, you apply heavy force on it, but individually, you will not be able to break it. He said, that's the mutual support that you need to have as brothers together, letting go of your differences that you may have in other areas. Those will remain. But when it comes to uniting yourself against this common enemy, you need to have ittihad over here. That ittihad is needed today as well. If one Muslim country is under attack, the other Muslim countries need to play their role. This is what the ittihad means. You stand together for one another. It is not only you who, as a result of hypocrisy, the loss of unity and solidarity, and the abandonment of courageous uprising against the enemy, have fallen into defeat. Rather, this is an enduring and eternal law. Whoever pursues programs such as those you follow, O people of Kufa, his fate will certainly be failure, humiliation, and defeat. That's what's going to happen. So we saw Kufans did that to Imam Ali. Kufans did what to Imam Hassan? And what did Kufans do to Imam Hussein as well? So in order for his words to have greater impact upon them, the Imam does not present the matter as a personal issue, but rather expresses it as in a form of a general rule that has prevailed throughout the history. This has happened. This is what weaknesses, entire span of human history continues to prevail. And then Imam says, وَأَيِّمُ اللَّهِ إِنِّي لَأَظُنُّ بِكُمْ أَلَّوْ حَمِسَ الْوَغَى وَاسْتَحَرَّ الْمَوْتِ قَدْ انْفَرَشْتُمْ عَنْ ibn Abi Talib انْفِرَاجَ الرَّاسِ. By Allah, I think that if a fierce battle breaks out and the heat and intensity of death draw near to you, you will separate yourself from the son of Abu Talib like the separation of the head from the body. This is again a metaphor that Imam is giving. Mufassirin of Nahj al-Balagha have spent a lot of time explaining the separation of head from the body. You understand what separation of head from the body is. If the head is separated, that's why head is referred to sometimes as Ra'sul Iman as well. It says the head to the body is like sabr to your Iman, for example. If sabr is gone, Iman is gone, for example. Or other examples are given. Meaning what? If head is separated, the person will not remain alive. If hand is separated, you'll still survive. Your leg is amputated, you'll still survive. Heart is transplanted, you'll still survive. Any other organ is changed completely, there's a possibility of you surviving. But if the head is separated from the body, very little chance. So the sentence employed is for such Imam, what does it mean? Just as when the head is severed, its joining again is impossible. Imagine someone, their head was chopped off. Now the physicians are working to rejoin the nerves and everything else. Is it possible? I don't think there's anything like this have been done in human history. There's a possibility maybe in future, but not now. The same way will not join. You will not join me either after you have deserted me. Imam is comparing you deserting me is like head is separated from the body. Some say Ar-Ras, head, was the name of a man in the village of Sham. Bayt Ar-Ras is named after him. This place, Bayt Ar-Ras, was named after him. This man left his home, went away somewhere and never returned. Therefore the proverb sprang about, you went as Ar-Ras had gone. You left the way the head was gone. One meaning is that just as if the joints of the bones of the head are opened, they cannot be restored, the same way you will not join me again. It has also been said that the sentence is in the sense of separating completely. After copying this meaning from Sharh al-Shaykh al-Qutbuddin Rawandi, the commentator of Nahj al-Balagha, Ibn Abil Hadid, had written that this meaning is not correct, because when the word ar-ra's is used in the sense of the whole, it is not preceded by alif lam, which is for particle of definite noun. Besides that, there are other meanings that have been given. You will so run away from me as one fleeing for life to save his head. Maybe sometimes this istilah, as terminology is also used, save your neck, right? Save your neck is like saving your head. So that's what Imam said. So through the simile, Imam appears to allude to several points. Number one, I don't know if that's the last sentence. Inshallah, we'll get to ziyarat after that. Number one, although his position is like that of a head to a body, Imam is the head to this entire ummah, which is the center of intellect and the eyes, and the same way your head, literally our heads, are also that central part of our body. You got the eyes on it, you got the intellect in it, you got the ears in it, you got the tongue in it. Accomplish anything without the other parts of the body. So even if a person was amputated, had no other body parts, it still had the head, the tongue was salim, the ears and the eyes were salim. There's so many things that this person can accomplish with that. Secondly, if the body is separated from the head, will it have any life or survival? And if it does, can it accomplish anything without eyes, ears, and intellect and awareness? No, it is not possible. So therefore, Imam is saying the same thing, that fate by anything other than convulsive movements and then complete annihilation. Thirdly, if such an event occurs, its harm will not be limited to me alone. If that was to happen, if you were to leave me, abandon me, just like the head abandons the body, it's not going to be devastating for me only, but you will also suffer a great loss. Fourthly, if the head is separated from the body, rejoining is ordinarily not possible, whereas the reattachment of other limbs to some extent is possible. Therefore, Imam's intent in what he's saying over here, when the fire of war grows intense, such terror will seize you. You will flee from me and distance yourself from me in such a way that you will never return to me. Then Imam gets into, the commentator of Nahj al-Balagha, Atul Makaram Shirazi, then he gives his own assessment of it towards the end. Inshallah, we'll talk about it at another time. But I think this suffices to the extent that how Imam, when he said in the beginning of this second portion, you're not trustworthy, makes sense. With all the reasons that Imam had given, all the analogies and the metaphors that Imam used over here, it is understood the true nature of these people. And we see the examples of that in our daily lives as well. Wa akhir da'wana, alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.
اللهم